My number one core value in my life, in city life, and a lot of everything that I do is let's go. It's about
Mm-hmm.
taking massive action. So for me, I'm very good at taking massive action. And I think happiness is generated by spending more time doing what it is that we love, whatever that is. And so for me, that's taking action, solving problems. And I have the ability, God-given ability to be able to take on risk and make decisions with not enough information. Where there's a lot of folks, my PI, I'm wired that way. It's my PI.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
independent. And I'm a very big driver, test the status quo. And I'm naturally wired that way. So like for me, that's really what I like to do. I'm all over the place. I think, right, it's around lunchtime here. I think I've been working on 9 different challenges in the business, right? Whether that's raising capital, solving a problem on a deal that we're doing, negotiating a different deal, working on a client success, issue that we have inside of. So, I really, really enjoy solving problems. I think solving problems is what moves the ball forward in any business, and I'm very good at that.
Welcome back to the Pete Podcast, where we discuss the latest in REI tech, trends, and inspiration. My name's MJ. I'm going to be your host as usual, guys, and I'm so pumped to invite a very special guest to our show today. We have Casey Quinn, and he's an active investor, the founder of Accruity as well, and they help entrepreneurs essentially, achieve financial clarity around their businesses. So for those of you who are listening and tuning in today, if you are in any need of, I'd say basic to extensive and really thorough, in-depth bookkeeping to payroll to fractional CFO services or tax planning and strategy, financial advisory, any of these things, one or all of them, essentially to optimize and scale your REI business, then you're in the right place. And this is going to be a really productive and useful conversation for you. So without any delay, Casey, thank you for being here, my man. How are you doing?
Good, MJ. How you doing? Excited to be here, pour in a little bit to your community and see where this goes. I appreciate you having me. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Really pumped to understand all the things I don't know when it comes to, all the kind of intimidating, right? Like back end financial services. And, at Pete over here, we are numbers nerds. We're data nerds. We love to talk about systems and how having the right systems, give you the ability to scale and to go to that next level. So I'm really excited actually to kind of pick your brain a little bit about, because that's what you guys do. You work around numbers all day long. So, for those of us who are tuning in and don't know as much about Accruity, tell us, in your words, what you guys do and kind of like the community you're serving with those services.
Yeah, no, really, really appreciate that, right? And just to, try to keep it really short. To your point, we're certainly on the data side, right? But we really like to focus on the financial side of the data and understanding what the financials look like, right? And for us, all of that really starts, and you've got to be understanding and have a really good clarity as to what the financial transactions look like. What I tell everybody is it's not real if it doesn't touch money, if it doesn't touch a financial transaction, right? Certainly there's more robust accrual-based accounting and different things as your company scales. But every time you do something inside of your business, if it doesn't touch money, it's not real. Once it touches money, you have to understand what's happening in a different light. What I mean by that is, what money are you spending and when is it coming back? Because isn't that the name of the game? Isn't that business 101? Spend money, get more money for spending the money that we've spent, right? Or time, but time is money, unless it's our own. But that also is money because we can be making
100%.
trades, right? So who we help really is anybody in the real estate space in whole, because most people that are in the real estate space are in multiple avenues, right? Let's be real. Nobody's just doing wholesaling. Nobody's just building a portfolio. Nobody is just running a lending business. Nobody is just a real estate agent. And we love that, right? So we like the integrated companies a lot, but we'll help any of the businesses just in construction, just in roofing, right? Really any of the trades around the real estate space or being in the real estate space. We love folks that are investing in real estate and building a real estate portfolio because we can really help them understand what's happening inside of their business, understand what's happening inside of that portfolio. And the accounting is a little bit more complicated when it comes to real estate investing because you're much more playing on the balance sheet compared to the profit and loss statement, right? Everybody that starts in businesses and been in business at least a year can say, okay, hey, I know what money came in. I know what money went out in this period. That's my profit and loss statement, right? I've made X dollars in revenue. I spent X in costs, and here's my net income. It's almost like managing the company using the bank account, by the way, which a lot of people do.
Mhm.
We tell them that that's not going to be sustainable for scale. You're not going to really be able to scale your business because
Yeah.
once you're scaling your business to make difficult decisions, you're making decisions out into the future based on the most amount of information you have today, right? And if you're not having a forecast, you're not projecting into the future and understanding, hey, if I spend 10 grand on lead generation or I go hire somebody,
Mhm.
what money is that going to bring me to the future and when? So we like to throw out crazy terms like cash conversion cycles and customer acquisition costs and the
Mhm.
lifetime gross profit of a customer that you've won and acquired, right? But that's a little bit more advanced. For the basics, we're doing really good advanced bookkeeping. We're setting you up with a really nice chart of accounts. And then we're really trying to help you automate the daily transactions and where they're going so that we can create you reporting on a monthly basis to understand financially what's happening in your organization. That takes time. We set all of that up now. Cool. We're really humming and you understand the monthlies. Now let's figure out how to get out into the future and make
Sure.
decisions based on, today, based on what we think is the best estimate of what's going to happen in the future. Again, using financials to help us guide and make those decisions. In my companies and my organizations, I don't like making decisions without understanding the financial impact, really ever,
Mhm.
right? And so all the time out there, you see a
Yeah.
lot of people in the organizations across the REI space always talking about who's the next hire, what should we be spending on marketing, right? Which you can answer some of the marketing questions through CRMs. Of course, you guys do a
Mhm.
ton of that, which is fantastic. But what's the return on the investment? When's it going to be? Because if I spend 10 grand this month on marketing, right, and I only have 20 grand, and so I do a 3 month campaign spending $10,000 a month on marketing, if that money's not
Yeah.
going to come back to me for 100 days, guess what? I'm bankrupt.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
understanding some of those and what that looks like is really where we focus on helping our clients.
That's great. No, and I think that's a wonderful summary and synopsis. Do you find well, I was going to ask, do you find, with some of the folks that you're working with in the REI space that they're, you know, the bookkeeping that is being employed thus far, obviously not, they're not using your services just yet in that capacity. Uh like what's the rate of, hey, that's good bookkeeping versus, ooh, we might need to take a look at those numbers. Is that financial data even a correct like starting point for us, to then
Yeah.
launch from?
What I would tell you there is 90% of the time we find that everybody needs a lot of improvement. And what I mean by that is to really be at your highest and best use from a financial back office capacity, particularly our clients who are entrepreneurs. They come from a sales background where they're just out there running and gunning. A lot of them are visionaries, not
Sure.
necessarily integrators in the EOS world. And they don't care, right? A lot of people don't pay attention to what they don't know. And so they just kind
Yeah.
of ignore it, right? So we've have clients where, this is you out there and you're listening to this, give us a call because we are able
Mhm.
to help you. And now is the time because yesterday was a time and you failed to move.
Yep.
But we have clients that, we're working on a few clients right now dating all the way back to 2020. They haven't filed taxes.
Mhm.
So when that's the case,
Really?
you always
Okay.
act in 2021. And so
Yeah.
we're doing 4 years worth of cleanup for them, right?
Yeah.
There's some clients that filed their 2024 taxes. They come to us and just say, hey, I've got a CPA, they're local, and right, they're not giving me the guidance they need. A big, beautiful bill came out. They don't
Mhm.
understand it, right? They don't understand what cost segregation is. And so there's more advanced up, right? So kind of to the beginning of like, I'm filed my taxes in 2020 since 2020, and I
Yep.
run my business based on my bank account, right? Money in,
Yeah.
money out. I'm looking at my bank account daily. I don't have financials. I don't have anything. I would say that's extreme. Oh my, this is going to be expensive, but we've got to do it. If you ever want to exit your company, you ever want to go get real money, real debt
Mhm.
from
Or
banks,
scale, like,
really
and
scale, make really
yeah.
good, strong financial decisions to go hire folks, spend and marketing, all of the things it takes to run a company,
Yeah.
right? All the way up to, hey, we filed our 2024 taxes. I doubt it was perfect, but I do have a CPA that has some other real estate clients. We do use QuickBooks, right? We are up to speed on monthly accounting. We do have an in-house office administrator that's, paying our bills and booking the
Yeah.
transactions, right? And a client like that, onboarding is a lot significantly less because they're good. We come in, we understand what's going on,
Sure. You're
and then we
coming
just
into a
take over
system
just
that
based
is
on
sustaining
recommendations.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, like, I know that you have a great team. Did you yourself have a background? Because you're an active investor as well. So did you have a background in finance, accounting, or
Yeah.
and Yeah, and I want you to answer that, but also my real question is why? Like if you're an active investor, what like why was Accruity birthed, and outside of, obviously you want it to be profitable, successful
Yeah.
for you and for those you're serving, but you know, what is that deep why for you, right?
Yeah,
Cuz
I
I know
think
you could do a bunch of things. So,
yeah, what I would tell you, to try to keep it somewhat short because it's a long story, but dating all the way back to high school, I got kicked out of art
mhm.
class as a freshman. And
Okay.
so I had to take a different elective as a sophomore. So I took accounting, right? Because, it was. And I ended up 3 years in high school in accounting. And I had a professor that recently, died in high school, Barry O'Connell. And he said something that resonated with me. And he was not the first one. Warren Buffett has said it, right? But accounting is the language of business. I've always wanted to be in business. I always wanted to own my own companies. And so I'm like, cool, well, I got to be able to speak business if I want to run my own company one day.
Yeah, I got to
And that
speak the
was that's
language.
that's the root of
Huh.
kind of the story of what got me into accounting. I graduated from college and started a big four firm, right? So I became a CPA from going to college after the high school for accounting.
Yeah. You're
And so
in
I
it.
was
You're
a
in it
renowned
now.
CPA. I spent roughly 10 years in corporate America in public accounting, big four firm, regional, is a high end financial management consultant making really, really good money. And the exit of that came, I was sick of traveling. I had a mentor that was leaving the big national firm that did 20 billion a year in revenue. And I took a CFO job at a small local real estate company, and I lasted 10 months there.
Okay.
Right. And what happened was essentially, I fixed up a ton of stuff, and, he and I just didn't see eye to eye, the owner. And it was either he or I that's going to run the company moving forward. He chose himself.
Yep.
And that's what catapulted me, right? So what was really, really cool is I had 10 years of financial experience. I really understood accounting. I really understood finance. And then my 10 months in that organization really taught me the power of real estate investment, and really even more so what
Hmm.
when you have the financial capabilities and financial abilities to understand real estate investment, you could really
Bingo.
crush everybody else in the marketplace, right? And so when I got fired, that's when we launched City Life, which is my real estate investment company. We've been able to grow that company 950 units, all from scratch, never using our own money, but never bringing in institutional capital,
Hmm.
well over $120 million in value at this point quickly. And right to get to the root of your
Ooh.
question of Accruity and why we started Accruity is when I was building that organization and I started to get, into these national circles around other real estate investors, I realized very quickly, like, holy heck, what we are doing is wildly impressive at a national level. So you had these influencers and these big time real estate successful developers and investors that are in their 50s that have been around for 30 years saying, you did this in how long? 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Awesome.
right? And so that's when I realized we were onto something, and we were onto something big in terms
Hmm.
of really being able to help. And I don't love real estate, right? I love helping people. I love business, and I always wanted to start a business, not an
Mhm.
investment firm. And so, that's when myself and my co-founder, who was my controller at City Life at the time, he had a great idea. He really wanted to run his own company. And so we spun him off. City Life was our first client, and my job was going to be go into the mastermind groups and help people that need help, right? With
Mhm.
the thesis, we can really help these other real estate investors that are hell of a good sales folk, right? They
Mhm.
can run, they can grind, they know a good real estate deal, they can scale. But guess what? They don't understand accounting, they don't understand cost of capital, they don't understand how to leverage and build a really good, strong back office. And they don't want to invest time into doing it. They're ignoring
Yeah,
it,
that's
right?
not their cup of tea. Yeah,
It's not their
exactly.
cup of tea.
Mhm.
So
They
it's
wanna
like, let's
hire.
help these folks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm, and
And
outsource that. Yeah.
that's really what launched kind of the vision and the power and the strength and desire around really wanting to scale Accruity, because it's not just scaling a business and having success and of course making money for our business, but we are truly helping our clients scale their business.
Mhm.
Not just scale their business, but in the REI space, we're helping them build wealth, right? We're helping them create financial freedom for themselves, which is what we're all after. And so it's not about helping create millionaires. It's about helping create freedom of time for as many people as we
Mhm.
can to go do bigger and better things, to take care of their children, to do different things that they want to do.
Travel,
That's been the
whatnot.
most
Yeah,
rewarding for us.
that's wonderful. You know, 2 things that really stand out from what you just shared. One, you kind of got started, at a young age, right? And I hear that often, but I do want to shared that, taking accounting classes in high school, that's not very common for everyone. Financial literacy is not, I always say I wish it was more instilled from a younger age in our education system, because
Absolutely.
this country is so unique in the sense there's so many people that come to our country to start businesses and to be self-employed and achieve that financial freedom or agency over their own lives and build that generational wealth, right? Um, and so I think that's really neat. One, that, you know, what was the class that you got kicked out of that you said you
Art.
art? Ah, Casey.
I
All
draw
right.
six figures and still can't do that very good.
Hey man, it would probably be the reverse for me. I'd get kicked out of accounting. They'd be like, "You're really not as good on the math side as we thought you'd be, but um, you could draw fairly decently." Though I still get murdered in telestrations. It's actually a joke. People are like, "Why do you keep drawing a cat or a hot dog?" Like that was not the picture at all. The
Yeah.
prompt,
I don't like to play
but
that game because I'm so bad at it.
it's so I know it's hard. I feel it's a very humbling game to play with your toddlers or your nieces and nephews, and then they just look at you. They're like, "We thought we knew you, but apparently, maybe you don't have to be great at everything. Actually,
Yeah.
maybe you can let us have this."
Yeah.
Um, but I think hearing you talk about really the freedom that kind of came and just seeing a need within the REI space for what you guys were doing, but being able to do it almost like in a compression chamber, right? Like achieve a certain amount of success within a smaller time frame. I want to kind of flesh that out a little bit with you.
Yeah.
What outside of what your system does, like, you know, I want to take a step back and ask you, what do you think is the role that having the right systems in anyone's business plays for them when it comes to efficiency, scaling, kind of working smarter, weeding out the things that you know aren't really serving you. So, how did you think about systems as you ran city life in that time, and also built Accruity? What role did they play for you guys?
Yeah, I think systems and processes are everything, right? And I think I use systems and processes somewhat intertangled, but they're very different as well, depending on the situation that you're in. But for purposes of this conversation, what I tell you is we all have a finite amount of time, right?
Hmm.
And of course, we've got technology that is changing the world in fast ways beyond our own imaginations right now. But the
Yeah.
reality of it is, we all have our own period of time that we can allocate to whatever it is that we can allocate, right? And then once you have kids and once you're doing different things, it becomes even less. But the reality of it is, we all can only maximize at 24 hours. And, maybe you're sleeping 5. And so maybe you have 19 maximum hours a day, 7 days a week, if all you ever do is work. You can't have more than that, right? And so you can only do so much. And so you can only scale a business so much. You can only do things yourself, right? What I would call is execution on something yourself for X period of time. And so, in order to be able to scale and allow other people to execute on those things, on your vision, on what you want to happen inside of an organization, you have to be able to create systems and processes that allow them to effectively do that without your oversight, without
Mhm.
your involvement, that
Yeah.
allows them to be successful on their own. Whether that is someone when you hire up, someone better than you at what that given assignment is, or you train someone on how to do that, right? But
Mhm.
regardless of anything, the only way that you can scale an organization effectively, in my opinion, is creating systems and automations that do the work
Mhm.
for you and create work happening when no one's doing it, or you've got to find people
100%.
to do the work.
Mhm.
And even then, right, it's very difficult. And so you have to be able to put systems and processes in place, right, to be able to do that. And so what we always focused on for us, not only was the systems and processes in the real estate side, meaning how are we project managing? What is our project management
Mhm.
board? How are we banging out so many renovations, right? I mean, we were putting $5-6 million in renovations into our own deals every single year. What are we doing on that to streamline and so we can do more work, so we could bang out 10 flips a month, right?
Mhm.
Not only what are we doing there, but what are we doing on the financial side so that we have clarity into what we're actually doing financially? Because you can go out to a property and think you're going to spend 8 grand on something that, you're going to replace the floors for 8 grand. Cool,
Yeah.
you agree. Well, 2 months later it turned out to be 13 grand and you had no
Mhm.
idea.
Yeah.
Right, they billed you 13 grand and your accounting company or somebody paid it. Well, what was the control and the process in place to ensure that you were only paying the $8,000, right? And so
Mhm.
for us, it was always really focusing on putting systems and controls in place around looking at and understanding what is financially happening every single day inside of our organization, so that we can use real numbers, real dollars and cents to make decisions, not only today, but what we're going to be doing in the future, right? Around
Yeah.
construction, around acquisition, around debt,
Mhm.
right? Debt being the biggest one for us, right? Because when we started, we had absolutely no money. And so we had to go get money from banks, from private
Mhm.
institutions, and from private investors. And so once you're doing that, you become a fiduciary of money and you become a money manager. And so if you don't have good systems and processes in place to make sure that that money that is somebody else's is
Mhm.
safe with you, and you know when you're going to be able to get it back to them with a
Yep.
return for them, right? Whether it be a bank, a private institution, a private
Mhm.
person, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble when you're going to be not be at a scale and you're going to be making decisions based on, what I would tell you is much more of a scare factor, right?
Mhm.
Or conservative approach, or at least you should be, right? We
Yeah.
see people out there in the marketplace all the time that are not, and they get themselves into a wild amount of
Tough
trouble,
situations. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's happening today because a lot of people are what we call out over their skis when the market
Mhm.
took a massive dip, right? Particularly in the multifamily space where all of a sudden that property wasn't trading what it was. Well, what did you do to make sure that you had the necessary controls, processes, systems in place that those investors were protected, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the importance to me around having all of those in place for any organization, any business. And to me, the earlier you do get those set up and they're constantly evolving, the better chance you have of sustainability and scalability, right? I think the statistics are just absolutely wild on the amount of businesses that fail in the first year, the first 3 years,
Mhm.
and in the first 5 years. The reality of it is the reason why, number one, I think is commitment, right?
Mm.
I think every day that you wake up, your goal in business should be not to go out of business, right? And you do whatever it takes there. Then number two is
Mhm.
what do I do to put the systems and processes in place to make sure that I'm a sustainable business over a longer period of time? The reason all of those businesses are closing down is because they're not doing either of those two things, right? Number one, how do I make sure that I survive another day? That involves money. And then number two, how do I set up the systems and processes to make sure that I'm understanding what my future decisions are going to be in order
Mhm.
to ensure sustainability, that I'm not making the wrong decisions today that are
Sure.
going to negatively affect me into the future that I wasn't aware of, right? And making wrong decisions because we didn't have enough information to make the right decision.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that keeps coming up when I listen to you speak is this concept of timing, right? So like
Yeah.
when am I getting that return back on this investment? When do I need to get funds back to a said investor or lender, right? How many times do you kind of come across folks or clients that aren't really thinking of that piece, focusing on the numbers, but not really the timeline, if you will?
Yeah, I mean that's when I get on stage and I speak at events, I really try to push no matter what the topic is that I'm asked to speak on. I really try to touch on the cash conversion cycle, right? It's a super
Okay.
simple concept called CCC, the cash conversion cycle. So whether it's debt that you've taken on, right? In the real estate investment space, what is incredibly common is institutional capital from
Mhm.
hard money lenders, right? And so you're borrowing at a high interest rate for a short period of time to buy the property and flip it, right? And then at that point, you're either going to sell it or you're going to go to a bank for a long term loan.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the cash conversion cycle and then the cost of the capital are the two really important things because your concept of time is your cash conversion cycle on that. When is the money due back? But more importantly, the money that you're spending, when is it going to get returned to you? So if you're Burr model investing, it's going to get returned to you when you go to a bank and say the property is now worth X,
Mhm.
or when you
Mhm.
flip it, right? And so understanding what's my conversion cycles on this cash that I'm outlaying to this flip, well, you know that you're not getting a dollar back, right? And so you have to be able to survive on money until you sell the property. Then you're getting the money
Mhm.
back. Well, when's that going to be? And so a lot of times, right, when you hear market fluctuations on people that are doing fix and flips, my property's been listed and sitting for 60 days. The market's taking a downturn. Now all of a sudden nothing's selling. Well,
Sure.
that
You
60
said
days
yeah.
is wildly important because if you didn't bake that into your deal costs of all of that
Mhm.
money that you borrowed sitting there for those extra 60 days, you might be spending an extra 5, 10, or 15 or $20,000 that you don't have.
Yeah.
Now what happens,
Yeah.
right? Now you're defaulting on a loan. Now you can't borrow more money. Now your business is falling apart. And so
Mhm.
understanding those cash conversions is incredibly important of when it's coming back. And I bake this all the way down to literally any dollar that you spend, right?
Mm.
Marketing cost
Okay.
is the easiest one that I tell everybody that needs to be focused on. Every dollar I spend in advertising because it's the easiest. We know when it's coming back. When is the deal closing? Now, listen, what's really important from an analysis perspective is if you're going to fix and flip, for instance, or you're going to wholesale, there's very different cash conversion cycles, right? Because if you're going to spend 20 grand on advertising today and you're going to wholesale it, right? Let's just say we spend it on mailers. Mailers is a great example. A lot of
Sure.
people use mailers. I recommend mailers to everybody as one of their lead gen channels, among many others.
Mhm.
But if you spend 10 grand today on mailers with a mailing company, right? It might take them 2-3 weeks to get the data, to do all of the things, to then mail it out. Then it might take another week to land at the seller's mailbox.
Mhm.
Might take them another week to call you. Might take another week for you to make the appointment, get the
We're at
contract
about
signed.
6
It
weeks
might take
now.
30 to 45 days. So maybe you're at
Yeah.
a 90 to 120 days from the day you spent that marketing money, right? So when
Mhm.
you're getting it back. And oh, by the way, then that's money that's not making you money during that time, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, if you flip it, it might take another 6 to 9 months till that
Mhm.
marketing money ever comes back. And so you have to put a cost to that money not being in your pocket, right?
Yeah, to the
It's an
weight.
opportunity cost, but it's a real
Mhm.
dollar cost too, in terms of how long that money sits out there, right? So if I'm spending 10 grand today and I'm going to make $20,000 return on it, or another, get 20 back on my 10, I want to make it as close as possible to when I spent
Mhm.
the 10, because that's
Yeah.
then maximizing my return. Why? Because now I have the money back and I can do it again,
And you can do yeah, you can rinse
right?
and
So you think
repeat.
about your
Yeah.
analyzed cost of capital or your analyzed return on your money.
Yeah.
So to your point, hopefully that helped explain really why you need to be thinking about the time that's associated with this more,
Mhm.
at least just as much as everything else that you're doing inside of your business.
Sure. And I think we've been at events where, to your point about people really like hyper focusing almost a little too much even on marketing and what is my marketing spend or what are the best avenues. Uh, I would say, like, for folks listening, really think about what Casey's sharing here in terms of when are you getting that return back? When is the money coming back in? Because for many investors, we kind of think about, well, what are all my lead gen avenues? But you don't have that CCC, you don't have that concept in mind. And depending on your strategy or strategies, you really want to be using the right approach so that you're not out for far too long.
Yeah. And like
You know?
it's just a money calculation to your point, right? Like ROAS is
Mhm.
a really big kind of common marketing term, right? Hermosa uses it a ton. A lot of people use it
Mhm.
a ton, right? And so if someone might say, I got a 3-to-1 ROAS on my marketing spend when I'm doing flips, right? Let's say they also have a 3-to-1, ROAS on their wholesaling business, right?
Sure.
Cool. Well,
What does that mean?
if that's all
Speak
you're
in.
calculating, then you would say, well, I want to do both equally then, right? Because I'm getting a 3-to-1 return
Yeah.
on my ad spend. But the reality of it is, if you're not getting that return for 1 year later on the flips as you are wholesaling, well, you have an entire year of that money deployed where you're making identical money. So you're losing the cost of money. Whatever your
Yeah.
cost of money is, that's what you're losing, right? So anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 to 20% on whatever that money was. So if you spend 100 grand, right, and it takes you a whole extra year to get the 100 grand back, you're losing maybe
Mhm.
$20,000. That's a big number just because you're
It's
not
a
paying
huge
attention to
number.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I keep talking about time, so I'm going to try to respect yours and not keep you here for too much
No, you're all
longer.
good.
But but I do got to ask, as we wrap up, Casey, since of all the things that you've done, whether it's investing, doing kind of the back end, like financial services component via Accruity, and even just within your own kind of background as a CPA, with where your businesses are at today, what do you enjoy the most and the least with, I know you're not wearing too many hats and you do have the visionary role primarily, but, where do you get the most joy and where are you like, I know I got to do this, but I don't want to do it?
Yeah, I think that I could probably mumble for the next 20 minutes and not give you a real answer because it's so difficult to answer that, right? I think for me, I've got different businesses and different life cycles of where they're at, and I'm sitting in different seats in all of them, which is really rewarding for me. My real estate company, for instance, I'm not even sitting as a CEO anymore. I'm the chairman of the board, if you will, in that business where I'm the CEO in Accruity.
Mhm.
I've got a hard money lending business where I'm much more active and involved in the day to day of that organization. I'd probably call myself like the director of ops in that organization right now, right?
Okay.
So I sit in a lot of different seats, if you will. What I would tell you for me, what I enjoy the most is business, right? And Okay, so what does that mean? To me, it's solving problems, making decisions, and moving the ball forward as fast as possible. My number one core value in my life, in city life, and a lot of everything that I do is let's go. It's about
Mhm.
taking massive action. So for me, I'm very good at taking massive action. And I think happiness is generated by spending more time doing what it is that we love, whatever that is. And so for me, that's taking action, solving problems. And I have the ability, God-given ability to be able to take on risk and make decisions with not enough information. Where there's a lot of folks, my PI, I'm wired that way. It's my PI.
Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.
independent and I'm a very big driver. Test the status quo, and I'm naturally wired that way. So like for me, that's really what I like to do. I'm all over the place. I think, right, it's around lunchtime here. I think I've been working on 9 different challenges in the business, right? Whether that's raising
Yeah.
capital, solving a problem on a deal that we're doing, negotiating a different deal, working on a client success, issue that we have inside of. So, I really, really enjoy solving problems. I think solving problems is
Mhm.
what moves the ball forward in any business, and I'm very good at that.
Mhm.
So I think that for me is what I enjoy the most about what I'm doing. I'd say what I enjoy the least about what I'm doing is trying to manage, lead, and hold accountable folks that aren't in a
Mm.
shared alignment of your vision, mission, and goals that you have inside of your organizations.
Sure.
And so I think people acquisition, people targeting, and talent is by and in creating the right culture and making sure that it is incredibly clear what that looks like is the hardest thing at period to do in business, but it is by far the most important thing to do in business because
Yeah.
no one likes being
That's
surrounded by
valid.
people they don't want to be around, right? The
Mhm.
most common is the negativity, right? People that aren't happy in their everyday role are negative. Well, like
Sure.
coming to work every day and working with negative people, it's absolutely awful, right? And
Well,
so,
it weighs everyone down,
yeah,
and this is in line with what I thought you were gonna say you enjoyed the least was excuses, you know, but it's people making excuses and,
yeah,
team
I try to
culture, company
eliminate
culture, and
myself from that. But
yeah.
there's two things when you're doing coaching. I do one-on-one coaching. It's like very
Mm.
easy to get rid of people that make excuses, right? And then or
Sure.
clients, we just don't work with them anymore, right? Fine, whatever. Like
Mhm.
they're never going to get it, move on. Where it becomes more difficult is inside of your own environment when you make a mistake on hiring or they're a part of your
Mhm.
culture. They're really important to something that's happening, but they're still creating those where it's just a lot more difficult, right? I've probably had to fire, 150 people in my career, maybe more,
Mhm.
and it never gets easier.
Yeah.
You're changing somebody's life for, and every single time I would tell you it's for the better for them, undeniably, but they
Mhm.
don't see it at the time, right? And the
Of
folks
course.
around you don't
Yeah.
see it at the time. And so, what I probably dislike the most, I would tell you, is making decisions that I know that are best for everybody around me that they don't yet see,
Yeah.
right? Because it's just a difficult. I'm human too. We're all human, and we all live, and we all go home. We all take care of our children or our wives or our friends.
Mhm.
And there's a human element to everything. I don't think that's going away. That's why I'm a big believer in community and a lot
Yeah.
of masterminds and things because you need that human connection to be successful.
Mhm.
That to me is probably the most challenging piece. Is I love the people side of it, and I think because I love the people side of it so much, it makes me hate it just as much
Sure.
because it's so hard.
Well, I think a succinct way to kinda sum it up is when you care, that care also gets reflected back onto you in terms of, the challenging conversations and human transactions that we have, right, for running a business, uh, and the ones that are uplifting as well. But they sometimes, they weigh, and that push and pull is felt both ways.
Yeah, it's
So,
like
uh,
to your point. Most
um,
of my mistakes come on the emotional side of I really care and I get emotional, I get worked up, and I make decisions in a rash kind of position where I just respond and I'm into it and I'm
sure.
emotional and I react and I create it.
React,
So I'm
yeah.
learning how to be much more stoic in my day to day actions because I have to be, right? Because a lot of people are
Sure.
looking at me, following me, and
Mhm.
but I care and I have a lot of emotion and I lead with emotion, which sometimes gets me in
Mhm.
trouble, right? Like it's just
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, though, folks would rather be led. I know I would, right, by someone who does care. So,
yeah,
um, I commend you in navigating it and also being able to share that. I think there's a lot of business owners out there who are just getting started, who are to all the way to wildly successful, and I think they would share that there's not a day that goes by that they don't learn something, whether it's about themselves or something they did that that they might do differently, when faced with that decision again. And I think that is actually the best way to also scale is when you remain open,
Yeah.
you know?
What I would tell you undoubtedly, because you said that,
Hmm.
by far my number one thing I think creates success, it has in my life undoubtedly, is education, right?
Hmm.
And I think that the most education you can ever have is from taking action and then learning from what you've done, whether good or bad. And so
Sure.
self-reflection every single day that you do, or you take action, then you learn from it. That's what
Hmm.
creates success. And so if there's anybody out there listening that's a newbie entrepreneur or a startup or trying to figure out how to scale or start or grow,
Hmm.
the reality of it is the easiest answer that I could give you, and by far the best answer that I could give you, is go. Take action,
Smart.
and
Hmm.
every day learn from the action that you've taken, whether it's join the mastermind or
Hmm.
spend the 5K in marketing or whatever it is that you think you should do. Stop thinking, do it,
And try it.
and
Yeah.
then learn what you did wrong, what was the right, what was wrong. Keep doing the right things, pivot on the wrong things every single day of your life. And I would tell you it's almost impossible to fail if you're doing that,
Yeah.
right? Because the
Then.
people you're going to surround yourself with want you to succeed. They're going to help you. They see you taking action. There's nobody I like
Mhm.
working with less than people that aren't taking massive action. I'll coach mistakes all day. We'll fix mistakes
Mhm.
all day if you're willing to learn from it. But the moment you're not willing to take the action to do whatever it is that you want to do, you're not going to be able to get the education to fix it and improve and ultimately get to where you want to go.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that when it comes down to it, that is really, that's the space that we're operating in, right? Entrepreneurship is about taking risks. It's about taking chances. It is about taking leaps. That starts with yourself. That starts with, having enough faith to at least take that first step. So, it's been fabulous getting to connect with you, Casey. Casey Quinn for all of our listeners. And again, if you are looking within this REI space to get some financial clarity, cleanup, optimization, so you can really scale your business and take it to the next level, and you're not interested in thinking about it anymore, but to Casey's words, you're ready to go and take some action, then you need to get in touch with him. You need to explore Accruity and the amazing services that they're offering. Thank you again, Casey. We appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Of course.